After Fuyumura finally found her friend Ono alive, she suddenly vanished again, leaving everyone wondering why she disappeared in the first place. Now, with Sanda determined to fulfill a child's wish and bring her back, the search begins before it's too late. But with the school already holding a funeral for Ono, and Yagiuta closing in on Santa, could Sanda really save her in time? Let's find out. In the next scene, Sanda and his classmates were in complete disarray as they talked among themselves. Utagawa, baffled and confused, asked them if they had seen Grandpa God yesterday, referring to Sanda in his Santa Claus form. Ike answered that he indeed had seen him. Hajime then asked Sanda if he also saw Grandpa God, where Sanda nervously replied that he did not, that he was not there, and added a comment that it was a shame he had missed it as an excuse. He then remarked in his thoughts that he felt like he had already heard the name Grandpa God mentioned at least 100 times that day. Thinking it might have something to do with something else, he told himself who was he kidding, and pointed out that it was clearly because of what happened yesterday. As he continued walking into their classroom, he clasped his hands together as if wishing for the situation to improve, while Hajime kept telling him how much he had missed, saying it was so awesome, and that unreal was the only word for it. He added that Grandpa God had fallen through the ceiling out of nowhere at Ono's funeral, shocking everyone who was there. Hajime continued that it was so out of the blue, and that the principal looked as if he could kill someone just with his gaze. It then showed that while Sanda was praying for Ono at her funeral yesterday, Fuyumura had taken a grenade from the box that Amaya carried, quickly pulled its pin and threw it into the middle of the funeral, and Hajime added that after that, Grandpa God disappeared along with an enormous explosion. Sanda gave him a simple "that's pretty cool," while his nervousness was still very apparent. Hajime also asked Fuyumura if she saw Grandpa God, where she replied that she did not care, leaving both Hajime and Sanda silent. And Hajime just responded with an okay. When Hajime went back to his desk, Sanda bent down on the desk he shared with Fuyumura and thanked her for saving him yesterday. He pointed out that she was the only reason he was still here now. He added that people just would not stop talking about what happened yesterday, to which Fuyumura remarked of course they would not stop. She explained to him that in an era where toilets were divided based on age and not on gender, if you put a completely naked old man in the middle of the entire school, this was bound to happen, making Sanda shout to give it a rest. He uncomfortably admitted that he understood it. He said that he was so embarrassed at that time that he thought he was going to die. Fuyumura then called his name and told him she had long wanted to say something to him, then said thank you. Sanda's eyes sparkled when he heard it, and he thought to himself that he never expected Fuyumura to have this kind of side. He said that once she truly trusted someone, any distance between them would suddenly vanish. They were suddenly draped over by Amaya, who asked them if they had looked around the school yet, pointing out that a lot had already happened overnight. Because of that, they started walking around the school and saw that there were already Grandpa God dolls being sold to students at 700 yen apiece. There was even someone acting as Sanda when he had dropped down from the ceiling, and upon landing shouted that he was Grandpa God, making his companion laugh and remark that he looked exactly like him. There was also a student writing on the blackboard a message for Grandpa God asking him to return, happily inviting her classmates to write messages there asking Grandpa God to visit them again. The shock on Sanda's face was evident as he saw all of this, while Amaya even went ahead and bought a Grandpa God doll. In Sanda's mind, he kept repeating to himself that this was scary. He started walking quickly down the hallway as he kept hearing his schoolmates repeatedly chanting the name Grandpa God, and he grew worried as he thought that everyone in the school truly believed he was a god. Smiling, Amaya pointed out to him that he guessed this was what he got for exposing his manhood like that, and added that's how much of a punch Sampa packed. However, instead of cheering him up, Amaya noticed how Sanda looked deeply troubled as he said that what was happening here was too damn scary. Amaya started to think about it, while Sanda, overwhelmed, thought that nothing could be worse than this, that it was all his fault, and that he had to take responsibility for it all. Not long after, Sanda suddenly started running, so Amaya tried to call out to him, but he did not stop. Because of that, Amaya thought to himself that Sanda was simply too honest for his own good, and added that he was certain it was not one of Sanda's traits. but just how Sanda was as a person. He also wondered if Sanda would be alright and what it was that he was truly afraid of. As Sanda kept running, he continued to feel nervous and uneasy. It did not take long before he reached their classroom, and as he looked at their blackboard full of messages for Grandpa God, saying he should visit again, that he was the best, that his naked body was something else, and many more, he stood in front of it and picked up the board eraser. However, he did not erase it right away and simply stared at it first. Fuyumura arrived and caught his attention. She asked him if he was alright, which startled him, and he quickly said that he was fine, asking why. She answered that she wanted to help, and as she started erasing the blackboard, she pointed out that he could not reach the entire board, which made Sanda jump at her comment and annoyed, telling her not to tease him about his height. But she only replied that she was there to support him. Sanda added, as he strained to reach the higher part of the board, that he could actually reach it if he really wanted to. As he did this, he told himself in his mind that she was helping him calm down a little. He felt that when he was with Fuyumura, he could actually be a 14-year-old. Not long after, Fuyumura suddenly hugged Sanda while holding a jacket. The shock on Sanda's face was clear when it happened, and nervously he called out her name. Fuyumura told him that she could never thank him enough and pointed out that he had completely wrecked Ono's funeral. Sanda answered that he understood and welcomed her thanks, blushing as he asked if she wanted to say something else to him. Fuyumura then commented that he was so thin, so he said he was not as thin as she was, which she agreed to. Fuyumura then tightened her hug on him, saying that he was still 14 both inside and out, to which he agreed and commented that it was sort of a relief. She slowly prepared the jacket she was holding as she added that after all, they were both still kids, which Sanda also agreed with. Not long after, she suddenly pressed the jacket against Sanda, which triggered his transformation into his Santa Claus form, surprising him. While he was still taken aback, Fuyumura added that that was why she thought she liked this form better. It was then that Sanda realized that what he had truly been afraid of this whole time was exactly what he was experiencing now. He began to laugh with his Santa Claus laugh, and while moving Fuyumura away from him, he asked her if it was true and where she had hidden that red jersey. He then asked her if she was feeling better now or what, adding that she could hug this Santa anytime. In his mind, Sanda asked himself why it felt like he was close to crying, and was he not Santa Claus after all? Fuyumura hugged him again and said she wanted to meet Ono, where he tried to comfort her and told her he knew. While this was happening, he thought to himself that having a child depend on him and fulfilling his duty as an adult only became harder when Fuyumura was in front of him. He then pushed that thought away and told himself no, he must not allow himself to think that way. Suddenly, Fuyumura remembered something and pushed him away, apologizing and saying her bad, which confused him. She asked what she was even doing there and said she felt like an idiot. She could not believe she was being this rude to him as well, and Sanda only stared at her with a puzzled look. Fuyumura began walking toward the classroom door, and after a moment she returned saying that now the door was properly shut. She then said to forgive her, but she wanted another hug, adding a please as a kind gesture, which caught Sanda's attention. Sanda granted her request, and as he did so she told him not to laugh, to which Sanda replied that he would not. Sanda thought in his mind that this 14-year-old girl, he wondered how many times she would keep going back and forth between being an adult and a child in just one day. After that, he also thought about himself. Not long after, Fuyumura released him from the hug and let out a sigh of relief. She thanked him and said that it was now his turn, which left Sanda confused. They sat side by side on the raised floor, and Fuyumura asked if Sanda is actually about to burst from all the pressure lately, so he urged him to let it all out, which he did despite not wanting to. In his mind, Sanda wondered how many more of those back and forth moments it would take for him to finally become Santa in both body and soul. As he looked at Fuyumura's face, he added that their journey did not seem like it was going to end anytime soon. He also pointed out that she had chalk on her face, so Fuyumura told him to clean it, which he did using the red jersey, while thinking that it was fine like that for now. In the next scene, the focus shifted to Captain Yaguda Saburo, where he questioned the idea that if Santa were to fall in love with a woman, his heart would stop beating, all while he was eating cup noodles. He remarked that it was pretty nasty, wondering at what point that would mean death. He asked if it would be the moment he realized he was in love during the first kiss, or while signaling with his fingers sliding into a hole. He also asked if it would be when they were already doing exercises in bed. Because of that, his companion was left speechless and commented that he was the nasty one here. He added that he did not know all the details since he had only heard rumors. In Yagyuta's thoughts, he said that he already knew Santa Claus was practically immortal from when he fought him. He added that the fact he could not die unless particular conditions were met was something that actually worked in his favor. One of his worried comrades asked if he had any more intel regarding the matter, while another said that he needed to do something about it. The worried comrade added that they absolutely had to capture him next time because if not, they really would be fired from their jobs. He also pointed out that practically speaking, it would be impossible to find any other job in Japan the way it was now. Yagyuta then grabbed his comrade's head and told him he was not the man for the job, while in his mind he thought that pretty much he was the only guy who knew who Santa Claus really was, and that kind of intel was far too big to just give up. Another comrade commented that it looked like a big typhoon was about to hit them soon, so he invited them to drink until they were drunk that day, while Yagyuta thought to himself for that kid to just wait. While that was happening, the focus shifted back to Sanda, who seemed to let out a sigh of relief. It turned out he was inside their dormitory, and as he looked at Ikea's naked body, he shouted in joy that even when he saw those tits, he did not feel anything at all. Because of his comment, Ike was left speechless, and Sanda's eyes widened when he saw that. Amaya quickly apologized on Sanda's behalf and said that it looked like someone badly needed a good night's sleep, while Sanda, seemingly going crazy, asked if he's amazing or what, pointing out that even a body that opulent was not enough to arouse him. The discomfort was clear on Ikea's face, and while covering his chest, he swore he would lose weight, where Hajime suggested they start by quitting all midnight snacks. Amaya and Sanda left their room afterwards, and Amaya scolded Sanda, asking him what his problem was and if something had happened, to which Sanda replied that he thought he finally understood. He pointed out that what he understood was that sexual desires were taboo for Santa Claus. Amaya asked if something had happened with Fuyumura, making Sanda shout no, as he explained that he just really did not want to become more attached to her than he already was, because he felt like a loser if he did. And the more he became like Santa day by day, the cuter Fuyumura seemed to become. Because of that, Amaya began to tease him, asking if out of everyone he really thought Fuyumura was the cute one, and he commented further that he must be head over heels for her, adding a side comment that love was blind, after all. Sanda shouted back that that's not what this is at all, and explained that he only felt an instinctual urge to protect her, like with all children, at least so far. Sanda began to look as if he was shifting between himself and Sanpa, so Amaya, shocked, thought that Sanda and Sanpa seemed to be at each other's throats on this, while Sanda added that he swore he would never fall in love and never get married. However, he thought about it and started considering another way, when Amaya suddenly asked what he would say to Fuyumura, which caught his attention and reminded him of something. He then explained that he actually had a fiancée, Kazao Nico. In the next scene, Nico approached him and suddenly snapped the broom she was carrying right in front of him, while he only smiled as he looked at her. She then pretended not to know where the broom went and said she could not find it. She added that it looked like she was no longer on cleaning duty because of that, while Sanda remarked in his mind that this was exactly the reason he avoided her. Nico began walking away, so he picked up the broom she had broken and, while chasing after her, pointed out that they should clean together. He added that besides, he also had something he wanted to talk to her about, which caught Nico's attention. Nico looked back at him and pointed out that she did not remember any ventures they had done together, then asked if he remembered any while calling him Kachan, leaving Sanda stunned as he thought to himself, of course not. The only thing he truly knew about her his whole life was that Nico was his state-mandated marriage partner. He explained afterward that Japanese citizens were now legally required to marry and reproduce. That had been their way since the year 2050. They were free to do whatever they wanted until marriage, since that was their only real obligation. At their age, he added, love marriage was as good as dead. After that, Nico suddenly said she did remember some ventures they had done, then placed something on Sanda's forehead, saying she was returning his 500 yen. Sanda grew annoyed because it was chewing gum that Nico had stuck on him, and he quickly brushed it off, while Nico cheerfully said he could get a 10 times return if he sold it. Sanda began to seethe and angrily asked what would happen to their cleaning, but Nico hardly paid attention and simply threw trash on the floor. Nico said that if he wanted to clean that badly, then he should just throw it out himself. She added that they were done for the day, that she was going to take a massive dump and then lie down, which made Sanda shout at her to wait. In Sanda's thoughts, he angrily remarked that she surely would not receive any presents at Christmas once he came back. As he tried to speak, he also thought that neither of them really seemed ready to marry each other, and so he realized it was better for them to cut things off right away. Not long after, he tried to tell Nico that he could not marry her, but his words were drowned out by the booming thunder that echoed all around. Because of that, Nico did not really hear him and asked what he had said. He stopped in place, while Nico commented irritably that the typhoon was too loud and it looked like they would not be able to get out. She added that now the bathrooms were going to be soaked and she would not be able to take a dump. Sanda explained that once the typhoon hit, it would continue like this for at least a month, and he pointed out that that had not been the case years ago. He added that it looked big enough to cause severe damage, so he said they should not go outside for now. Nico asked then why, which puzzled Sanda. He thought for a moment and answered that it was because it was not safe. It also crossed Sanda's mind the idea that secretly he was Santa and everyone else was a child. So he told himself to forget about marriage, and that even dating was something they could not do. Nico started approaching him and asked what nonsense he was saying. She drew her lips close to his and pointed out that they were 14, adding that he was not growing up properly if he always played it safe. Nico then suddenly grabbed the door beside them and added that after all, they were being given VIP treatment here. She went on to say that if she did not stir up trouble and did not annoy people, she could not be at ease. After that, she opened the door, letting in a fierce blast of wind from the typhoon, which startled Sanda. Sanda shouted at her to wait, and even rushed out himself to chase after her, trying to bring her back. Nico invited him to come where she was going because it felt like being inside a washing machine. While this was happening, Sanda thought in his mind that Nico was the only one who called him Kachan. He knew it was only for her to get used to calling him by his first name. He started to remember the time Hajime had called him Sanda, and he was shaken then because he thought he had called him Santa. The sound was so close. He added, as he kept walking through the harsh wind and rain and with Nico calling out to him, that it felt as though the Santa inside him was being pulled away. He added that it was like being invited by the stormy voice of Nico, and before he knew it, he was already moving. In his mind, he thought the rain was so strong that he could not even open his eyes, and he shouted out Nico's name. He recalled Nico's words that they were only 14 and he was not growing up right if he was always playing it safe, and he told her in his mind not to give him that. He explained that he could no longer go back to being just a regular 14-year-old. As he continued walking toward Nico, he thought about saying again that he could not marry her. Not long after, Sanda finally caught up to Nico, where she suddenly hugged him and said that here she was, while calling him honey. His eyes widened at this while he looked at Nico's happy face, but the moment was suddenly broken when a flying soda can hit Sanda in the face, startling them both. Nico commented that things were not looking good and said they should go under a tree, so they did. While they sheltered there, Nico squealed that this was super duper fun, while Sanda said that they needed to get back inside. But Nico replied that only dumbass stayed indoors during a typhoon. She added that it seemed everyone thought Grandpa God was behind the typhoon, but she did not think so. She said she did not believe in anything supernatural, pointing out that nothing could beat reality, after all. They then decided to sit, and as the heavy rain poured down, Nico called Sanda's name and suddenly held his chin, asking in a flirty way if he was thinking right now that she would make the perfect wife, which clearly shocked Sanda. Sanda jolted and his Santa side tried to answer no, but Nico cut him off and added that she did not think he would actually charge into the typhoon, and she pointed out that she really loved the people who would fool around with her. She said she had not thought much about it before, but now it was different. After that, blushing, she said that it seemed they were going to make a pretty darn good couple, while Sanda thought that this typhoon was trying to completely drive Santa mad. The next day, in the hallway of their classrooms, Fuyumura asked Amaya if he had seen Sanda, to which Amaya answered that he had seen him earlier that morning leaving his room. When he turned to the side, Amaya was left speechless at what he saw. It turned out to be Sanda and Nico walking together toward them, with Nico holding on to Sanda's wrist. Nico happily greeted them good morning and invited them to make some noise for the coolest couple in town, while Sanda looked somewhat uneasy when he saw that Fuyumura had witnessed them together. When the two of them reached Fuyumura, Sanda quickly greeted her and, looking restless, told her that he needed to talk with her later, where Fuyumura also greeted them and teasingly called them Mr. and Mrs. Tiny. Because of that, Nico threw the name-calling back and greeted Fuyumura good morning while calling her Miss Bigfoot. She then adjusted Sanda's necktie in a flirty manner, telling him that he still could not even wear his tie properly, and once again called him honey, to which Sanda, clearly uncomfortable, replied that he had been telling her all morning it was fine and that she should stop calling him that. At first, Fuyumura was puzzled by what Nico meant with Miss Bigfoot, but before long she realized she was the one being referred to. Suddenly, Nico yanked Sanda's tie hard, startling him, and said that he could just wear her tie instead, and he'll have to make do with that until they're married. When they entered their classroom, their classmates began talking among themselves, and Izawa commented that he never thought he would see Nico together with Sanda. Nico replied that the sooner they started getting giddy with her fiancé, the better, adding that a loving marriage was the one thing that could never be attained at their age. While Nico was busy chatting with their classmates, Amaya pulled Sanda away. Amaya asked him in a worried tone what was going on, saying that he thought Sanda did not want to get married. Sanda tried to explain that he never thought it would be so difficult to stop thinking about a future with Nico, which made Amaya shout at him that he was already in full husband mode. Amaya called him Sanpa and told him to love whoever he wanted, but that he should also consider the position he was in, to which Sanda, looking bothered, said that he'd get it already and told them he would tell Nico off by the end of the day. When Sanda walked away from them, Amaya remarked that at the end of the day, Sanda really was only 14 and that you just can't help it, which made Fuyumura ask if that was truly what he thought. Then, since they were already on the topic, Amaya decided to ask who Fuyumura's fiancé was, to which she answered who knows while walking away. In the next scene, while the rain continued to pour, Sanda kept thinking about what he was going to do while he was in class. He recalled what Amaya had told him about considering his position, and he remarked in his thoughts that it was not as if he had forgotten that he was Santa. Just as he was about to comment to himself about romance with a kid, a crumpled piece of paper hit his back, which caught his attention. He picked it up and opened it, finding inside a drawing of poop, and it seemed Nico was the one who made it, as she stuck her tongue out at him teasingly when he turned to look at her. He stuck his tongue back and thought that every once in a while, even he just wanted to go back to being a shitty brat. And just when he had accepted the fact that he would never really be a child again, Nico came along. He thought about it and wondered who would not want to be happy about what was happening to him. At that moment, he grew irritated that Nico had sent him another poop drawing, so he decided to draw more of those himself and send them back. While he was doing this, their teacher announced that they would be joined by a new instructor that day. She explained that they did not usually have sudden additions, but given the state of chaos they were in, having more teachers was a relief. After that, she called in the new instructor, and as he entered, it turned out to be Captain Yagita Saburo, who introduced himself as their new PE instructor starting that day, greeting them with pleasure and saying he was glad to meet them. Sanda's face froze in shock when he saw him, making him stop drawing poop, and the same reaction was clear on the faces of Fuyumura and Amaya when they saw the man there. After that, Yagyuta told them that they could say his name either as Yagyuta or Yagyuta. He added that, well, it was really spelled with the letter I, but Yagyuta sounded kind of cute, so that was fine too. Sanda immediately remembered Yagyuta's words when he had tried to kill him. The part where he had said who would ever think Santa was hiding as a child, his introduction as a member of the Redcoats, and his intent to kill him, saying they could not allow him to exist in this era. Sanda stared at him for a long moment with a troubled expression, unable to believe that this man was really here. Yagyuta then explained to the class that there had been reports of shady figures being sighted recently around their classrooms. So, he added that he thought it would be good if he could teach them some self-defense, which was, after all, his area of expertise. Because of that, Sanda shuddered and thought to himself that he had assumed this man would come after him sooner or later, but he was deeply unsettled because he had never imagined he would infiltrate the school itself. After that, Yagiuta asked if Sanda was their class rep and then said he had some things to check with him after school, if that was all right. Stammering nervously, Sanda agreed while thinking how this man could possibly have managed to infiltrate their school. At that moment, the story shifted back to an earlier point in time when Yagiuta and Oshibu were talking to each other. In Oshibu's office, he showed him a heart inside a container, and he explained that it was his own heart. He revealed that he had been using an artificial one for the sake of his youth. He added that he had immersed it in a 0.9% saline solution ever since it was removed on his 90th birthday, while shock was clearly visible on Yagiuta's face. He then said that he would switch it with Yagiuta's if he failed once again to capture Santa. Yagiuta's eyes widened at that, and Oshibu added that there had been people who had seen his failure the last time. Oshibu then asked if he was still on campus, to which Yagiuta replied yes, he thought so. Oshibu stated that he was a busy man, so he would have Yagiuta capture Santa for him. He thought for a moment, and not long after gave Yagiuta a time frame, telling him he must be sure to catch him before the typhoon left the sky. Because of this, Yagiuta grew nervous, thinking he had less than a month to do it or else he knew what awaited him. Oshibu told him not to worry too much about failure. That would only mean he would turn 90 a little too soon. A quiet life devoid of appetite, libido, and energy awaited him. After that, the scene returned to the present where students were leaving their classrooms, leaving only Yagiuta and Sanda behind, as an announcement was made telling everyone it was time to go home and that those staying on campus should return to their dorms. Yagiuta remarked that Sanda probably did not need him to explain why he had called him there, and reluctantly, Sanda agreed. Yagiuta went straight to the point and, calling him Mr. Santa, told him to say what it felt like to suddenly grow up. Sanda stared briefly at him, then began explaining that compared to his younger self, he had become a little more unruly. As he explained this, he quickly put on the red jersey, transforming into Santa Claus, and told Yagiuta that he was going to charge at him with everything he had. Yagiuta threw down his ID in preparation, thinking that either he would lose his heart or he would die here. It would be the end for him either way, so he was fighting for his life, then charged toward Sanda. The intensity on their faces was clear as both prepared to throw punches, but when Yagiuta struck, Sanda suddenly reverted to his normal form, which shocked Yagiuta. Sanda was easily sent flying into the desks behind him, while Yagiuta, bewildered, wondered if the boy was made of mochi because of how soft he had felt. Sanda collapsed, and Yagiuta began shouting in confusion, demanding to know what was happening. Why had he suddenly turned back into a child? He cursed, saying he had punched a kid and that it felt awful. As a rebuttal, Sanda pointed out that it had not stopped him from casually shooting at him before, to which Yagiuta, with a shaken look, replied that guns felt like toys. There was no real feeling in simply pulling a trigger, he added, but punching a child was something he could not stand. With blood dripping from his nose, Sanda began to wonder aloud. He quickly sat upright, straightened his red jersey, and explained that this had never happened before. Wearing red did not make him Santa. Yagiuta fell silent, realizing there was no point in what they were doing if he could not prove that this child was really Santa, and he apologized for what he had done to Sanda's face. Sanda brushed it off, saying it was all right, though inwardly he wondered if his powers were weakening. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to Nico, who was eating chips while lying on her bed, when her doormate called to her, saying someone was looking for her. When she stepped out to the doorway, she found Fuyumura there, who, with a deeply serious tone and emphasis, told her to keep her hands off her Sanda. They then sat side by side on a couch, and as Nico called out to Fuyumura, Fuyumura's attention was caught by the text written on Nico's clothes, so she read what was written there, Juntaku. After that, with irritation clear on her face, Fuyumura corrected Nico in her mind that his name should be Sanda, and she wondered what was with the use of Kachan. Suddenly, Nico mimicked her manner of speech and, pretending to be her, answered her own question by saying she had never said she liked Sanda, that she was above that kind of person, then laughed like a mad scientist. Nico then laughed again and asked how her impression of her was, saying of course she was not paying attention to her, and let out a loud laugh. Fuyumura's brows furrowed even tighter and her eyes glared after that, while Nico added that although she was surprised by her direct declaration of war, Fuyumura turned her gaze forward and wondered why she had to say what she said that way. It only made it seem like she depended on Sanda more than she actually did. Nico then explained to her that she and Sanda could love whoever they wanted before they married, so Fuyumura was free to seduce him all she wanted. She added that above all, the more people grew jealous of them, the more passionate their relationship became. Because of that comment, Fuyumura stood up and began to exude a frightening aura as she glared intensely at Nico, causing Nico to ask why she had stood up, while in her mind thinking how scary she was, to which Fuyumura answered that this was her threat. Nico stood too and scoffed, then asked if she intimidated people with her height. She then gave Fuyumura some advice, telling her not to do that when fighting for love. After that, Nico began convincing her, adding that what she was saying was real, and explained that Sanda was just a 14-year-old boy, so all she had to do to attract him was show him her boobs and let him touch them. Though, she added, it was odd that she herself had suggested that to her like a fiancé. Fuyumura frowned at that, and, feeling somewhat embarrassed, tried to say that was not what she meant, then shouted that she and Sanda had a mission. Suddenly, Nico asked her if they had found Ono yet, pointing out that they had even had a meeting and everything, which completely shocked her. Nico then sat back down on the couch and said she wanted to finish this as soon as possible because she had needed to go to the bathroom for a while, then apologized. Fuyumura was startled by that and seemed to realize something, wondering to herself if Nico had been the one lying during their meeting, though she said that was not a clue. Nico then asked her if she was right that she loved Ono, and if she swung both ways. After that, the scene suddenly shifted to where, after bathing, Fuyumura looked at her body, which was so thin it seemed nothing but skin and bones, while Nico's question of who she really loved, Sanda or Ono, echoed in her mind. As she wiped herself down, she thought to herself that although Nico had said that to her, she knew she would struggle with her body. She said that by simply looking at this body, she felt she could see who she was, and she pointed out that she was afraid of getting close to people. She explained that Nico's body was starting to look more feminine and her voice was now higher in pitch. She then pointed to herself, saying she had no breasts, was 182 centimeters tall, her body so thin, and even her voice deep. She added that even without knowing if she was a man or a woman, a child or an adult, she had survived her way until now. She continued explaining that only when she was with Ono could she simply be Fuyumura Shiori. While waiting for her clothes to dry in the dryer, she sat with her legs pulled up close to her chest, arms wrapped around her knees, and head lowered onto them, thinking to herself that she wanted to see Ono and that she should find her soon. She also said that she should go back to her room when the washer finished and that she did not want to be alone. Before long, someone began knocking from outside the washing area, catching her attention. She walked toward the door and tried to see who was knocking under the pouring rain. When she looked closely, her eyes suddenly widened in shock as if she had seen something that greatly startled her. As that happened, the scene shifted inside their school. There, Sanda, Yagiuta, and Amaya were together because they had called him in. Sanda nervously ate ramen, thinking to himself why he could not turn into Santa, to which Amaya, irritated, answered that it was because he had lost his head over a girl, pointing out that he was not supposed to fall in love. Yagiuta thought to himself that telling that to a 14-year-old kid would only have the opposite effect. He then told the two that even though Sanda was Santa, his mind and body were still youthful. He added that even small things could cause a change, and he was certain it was a matter of the heart. He asked what Sanda thought the reason was that he had been able to transform into Santa until now, which made Sanda fall silent for a moment. Sanda explained that, well, the Sanda family were heirs of Santa. He said Fuyumura and Amaya got him in trouble because the more they relied on Santa and the more he tried to help them, the more he realized he was not cut out for it, and that only made it more painful for him. Concern was clear on Amaya's face as he looked at him, while Yagiuta thought to himself that this was simply how it appeared to a 14-year-old, and even he himself wanted to help them too. However, he added that this was not his way of doing things. As he looked at the banner that read "Children are treasures," He thought about how ironic it was that on his very first day of infiltration, he ended up playing the role of a teacher, and he commented that the power of children was indeed serious. The story then returned to Fuyumura's situation, where the look of shock on her face revealed what she was seeing. It was Ono who had been knocking at the door, dressed in a raincoat and boots. Her heartbeat quickened suddenly, and she hurriedly opened the door to let her in. As soon as the door opened, Ono wasted no time and hugged her tightly, while Fuyumura remained stunned and unable to believe this was happening. "Thank goodness," Ono said as she held her close. Before long, Fuyumura hugged her back and said she would never let her go again, which Ono agreed to. Afterward, Fuyumura held Ono's cheeks in her hands and asked what had happened and how, and said she was so happy to see her. Ono explained that she always did her laundry alone at that time, so she thought she might find her there. Looking at her, Ono suddenly asked why the long face. Fuyumura lowered her hands and tried to explain that Ono was different, but Ono only giggled and asked if she really thought so. She then asked if something had happened, and just as Fuyumura was about to point something out, Ono suddenly moved in close and kissed her on the lips. They both fell to the floor because of that, and as Ono remained on top of her, she continued to kiss her. She pinned her down, holding both her hands, as she said that she had not changed at all. It felt as if time had stopped around her, neither child nor adult, separated from the flow of time. Ono eerily pointed out that she had always desired this infinitely free body. She then asked Fuyumura why she had not kissed her back then, even when she had wanted all of her so badly. Meanwhile, Amaya and Sanda tried to go to Fuyumura's dorm, but were left confused when her roommate said she had not yet returned. Fuyumura's roommate explained that normally she would already be back by then from doing her laundry, making her wonder what had happened. Returning to Fuyumura's side, Ono was telling her that she had never wanted to grow up, and as she pulled out a knife, she invited Fuyumura to stop time together with her. After that, Ono added that instead of growing up in this country, why not stop time right here? Because Fuyumura did not respond, she told her to say something, so Fuyumura gently told her to calm down. She said it was okay, so she would listen. Ono fell quiet at that and thought carefully about Fuyumura telling her to calm down, then asked what that was again and why it sounded like an adult was the one speaking. She said the last thing she wanted to hear was an adult's voice. She also asked since when Fuyumura had become an adult. After that, Ono, sounding nervous, told Fuyumura not to act like an adult just because she was starting to grow up, pointing out that it was fine for her to be as free-spirited as she used to be. She added that she had really liked her because of that, and the way she slept as if she had nothing to worry about, which made Fuyumura's eyes widen when she heard it. After that, the scene suddenly shifted to a point in time when Ono and Fuyumura were still together in the dorm and Fuyumura's hair was shorter. There, Ono watched Fuyumura sleeping. Ono explained that before she met Fuyumura, she had never seen any child sleep that peacefully. She added that, of course, she herself could never sleep like that. Ono remarked then that Fuyumura had fallen asleep again while she was looking at her. After that, Fuyumura slowly woke and opened her eyes, which surprised Ono. Fuyumura sat up in her bed and, still drowsy, greeted Ono good morning and said she had fallen asleep right after class last night, where Ono greeted her back and then began talking about something. She sat beside her and said no child would sleep that carelessly, and that even simply watching was enough to make her nervous. Fuyumura replied that it was because she likes to sleep and that it would be fine. In Ono's mind, she said that in this day and age, children did not get enough sleep and really should not. She explained that because of receiving vaccines since infancy and having a well-developed diet, they did not need to sleep. She added that sleep was a detestable thing that accelerated a child's physical and mental growth. Therefore, she went on, they were taught to just lie down and rest at night. They stood afterward, and Ono continued persuading her by explaining that sleep was the last thing she should do. She explained that her body would go through puberty overnight and she would get a lot of growth hormones. She then asked if she was not afraid, which Fuyumura answered while fixing her necktie that she had been big since birth, and she did not think that was because of puberty. She added, while caressing Ono's head, that there were many benefits to being big, such as being able to pat her head like this. Ono blushed slightly while pouting, while Fuyumura smiled at her. After that, Ono explained that she could not tell this to Fuyumura, but in truth, she felt lonely every night and did not want her to sleep. It then showed a scene where, while watching Fuyumura sleep, she would think that she wanted to stay up all night and just talk to her. And when Fuyumura fell asleep, she suddenly ended up alone. As they walked together down the hallway, some of their schoolmates seemed to gush over how cool Fuyumura looked and were stunned when they realized she was a girl. After that, Ono explained that the uniform of Dikoku Academy was pants for both girls and boys. Apparently, that was a preventative measure so students, and even assigned fiancés, would not develop unnecessary feelings for the opposite sex. At that time, Ono thought that it did not matter, because the one and only gender she was crazy about was the Fuyumura gender. In the next scene, as Fuyumura and Ono lay side by side on the bed, Ono remarked in her thoughts while watching Fuyumura that she really likes to sleep. She also said in her mind that perhaps her hair grew quickly because she slept every night. After that, while Fuyumura slept, Ono quietly spoke to her, saying she wished she would stay just as she was and that she did not want her to leave. She asked what it felt like to sleep and then whispered that she loved her. Fuyumura suddenly opened her eyes and began to blush upon hearing it. Because of that, Ono stared and quickly sat up straight, startled that Fuyumura was awake. She tried to say that Fuyumura should just answer her first question, but before she could continue speaking, Fuyumura swiftly took her by the wrist, said her name, and leaned in to kiss her, and slammed her back onto the bed. After the kiss, Fuyumura told her that she felt the same, which puzzled Ono. So Fuyumura explained that she had loved her from the very beginning. Fuyumura then kissed her again, and for a short while they stayed close, with Fuyumura still holding her wrists. When Fuyumura's kisses trailed lower, Ono did not resist, and, flustered, told her it was all right to continue. She asked to be held a little more, and as they stayed close, Fuyumura softly asked if it felt nice when she touched a certain spot, which Ono answered with a pleased, quiet confirmation that it did, while Fuyumura asked her to let her see her face up close. Ono said that they would be together forever, which Fuyumura agreed with, adding that they would always be together. She asked not to be left behind, and just as she felt herself about to lose herself in the moment, she suddenly woke and called out Fuyumura's name, revealing that everything had only been a dream. Ono explained that when she woke the next day, her body had gone through puberty. Not only did she get a full night's sleep, but had also had an indecent dream about her friend. After experiencing that, she stood and, as she walked, thought to herself with a worried look as if she had committed a sin, and it felt as if her body was getting heavier. She remembered what their principal Oshibu had once said at school, that reaching puberty before graduation in their school is outrageous, and that any student who became a full adult in body and mind would immediately be subjected to questioning. Because of that warning, they were all reminded to be careful and stay awake. Frightened, she quickly thought to herself that she needed to run away, and so she ran with nothing else in her mind. After she explained all of that, the story returned to the present where Ono asked Fuyumura if wasn't that funny. She said she had known all along that adults were jerks, but she had not thought they could be that pathetic. She added that she had gone back to school alone several times after that, and pointed to the time they had seen her, commenting that it had been so pathetic, while Fuyumura continued listening to her. In Fuyumura's mind, she remarked that Ono was becoming more beautiful. She also remembered what Sanda had told her, that growing up was not only about decaying. She then decided that she needed to tell Ono what Sanda had taught her. She raised her body then and, after holding Ono by both shoulders, she impressed upon her that it was all right for them to become adults, which seemed to make Ono uneasy. It turned out that Principal Oshibu was standing behind Fuyumura, and it seemed he had heard everything Fuyumura had said. When the principal, Oshibu, arrived, he remarked that it seemed an adult had entered their school grounds. For that reason, he said, he would personally deliver the punishment. But Fuyumura stood up, declaring she would not allow Director Oshibu to so much as touch Ono. She said she had merely grown up. She was not an intruder, but a student. She asked if there was any reason why he hated his students for growing. Ono wept as she called out to Fuyumura. Oshibu raised his cane and pointed at Ono, saying that tears were the most disgusting of all human secretions. He asked why they thought people were prone to crying as they grew older. It was, he explained, because when they accumulate sad and painful experiences, their empathy grows. In other words, she carried trauma, yet their academy was supposed to be a trauma-free school. The principal insisted that adults burdened by trauma could never stand back up after they trip. Such students were not needed at that academy. He said he had heard everything, and it appeared that Onii-Chan had suffered a severe trauma in just one night. It was no wonder she ended up that way, he declared. Her youth had simply gone to waste. While they spoke, Sanda and Amaya were secretly listening from behind, hidden away. The situation was dire, and Sanda wanted to rush out and help. But Amaya stopped him and calmed him down. What did he mean by going out there to help? Amaya asked, when he could not even manage to transform. Sanda froze at those words. Amaya pressed further, saying he was only speaking the truth. They needed to think calmly. In that moment, Sanda was not Santa Claus. He was not strong, nor was he a reliable adult now. Sanda then recalled when Fuyumura had embraced him, telling him that was why she liked that Sanda. He admitted to Amaya that even that Sanda could not be trusted. He realized that no matter how old one became, adulthood, being a true adult, was something difficult. Meanwhile, Fuyumura embraced Ono to shield her, since Ashibu was already poised to strike her with his cane. The principal insisted she step aside, declaring that the girl beside her was an intruder and had to be punished. Back to Sanda. He thought to himself that this was the reason that even as the boy Sanda, he would still help them. He stepped out from hiding and called out to Ashibu, shocking the principal. Neither Amaya nor Fuyumura expected him to reveal himself there. Sanda declared that if Ashibu could not allow an intruder to escape, then he should punish him first instead. That was because he was Santa Claus. Ashibu was taken aback, and Fuyumura could not believe Sanda had admitted it. Amaya clutched his head in disbelief at what Sanda had done. Sanda added that he was the post-pubescent old man with white hair. His 14-year-old student self, he explained, was only a temporary form. Wasn't he the one Ashibu had been searching for? He admitted his form was not yet perfected, so he could not display his other appearance. But he had witnesses, and if Ashibu tried to capture him now, then Santa Claus would never appear again. Shouldn't he be punished? Sanda asked, calling him by name, Ashibu. But because of Sanda's words, eyeballs suddenly dropped from the principal's body. Sanda and the others were shocked by what they saw, never having expected such a thing. Ashibu shouted for them to wait. He turned around way too fast, and the force was too strong, which made his artificial eyeballs fall out. He explained he had to pick them up first. He confessed that a completely artificial body really did have its flaws. Fuyumura was disturbed by his appearance. Still, Ashibu swung his cane, forcing Fuyumura to dodge quickly. Even in that state, he declared his reflexes, honed by years of training, remained unaffected. If they tried to escape again, he swore it would mean their end. Irritated, he bent down to collect his eyeballs, muttering in frustration about why pieces worth billions always fell apart so easily. When Amaya witnessed the scene, he realized that director Ashibu still didn't seem to recognize who Sanda truly was because of what had happened. So he thought the best course was to run and hide him. He pulled down a bin full of jackets from the side and dumped it over him, burying Sanda underneath just as Ashibu managed to reattach his eyeballs. Ashibu apologized to the one who called himself Santa and demanded that he step out and reveal himself. Then he noticed Sanda hiding beneath the pile of dirty clothes and mockingly asked if he had gotten cold feet. Sanda, however, was irritated at what Amaya had done. That was supposed to be his face-to-face confrontation with Ashibu. Under the heap of jackets, he recalled Yagura's words, that even though he was Santa, his body and mind were still those of a child. He realized Yagura was right. He was still a kid, a weak brat everyone worried about. But he didn't want to stay that way. He wanted to grow. He remembered too what Yagura had said, that it was a matter of the heart. Looking down at his own hands, he resolved that if he truly wished to grow, he couldn't remain as a child forever. And with that thought, he suddenly transformed into his adult form once again. This time, however, he wasn't naked. A proper costume appeared with his transformation. Rising to his feet, he faced Ashibu head-on. The principal's expression shifted, pleased that Santa Claus had finally revealed himself, the serious Santa Claus. Sanda took notice of the sheer size of his hands. Moving in that outfit also felt effortless, and he realized the far-sightedness in his vision was back as well. That only meant he had truly returned to being Santa Claus. The principal slipped into his coat and remarked that he looked different from the Santa Claus he had known. Without hesitation, he challenged him to a duel. If Sanda lost, he would be handed over to the Redcoat's Special Investigation Unit. But if he won, Onii-Chan would be allowed to return to the academy as a student. He asked Sanda what he had to say to that, insisting that here and now was where they should settle things. Sanda gave the challenge some serious thought, finally realizing he was about to face Ashibu directly. But then he stopped and stepped back from it. He declined, walking closer to Ashibu and saying they didn't need to fight. As old people, he explained, there was no need to resort to that. After all, Ashibu was a 92-year-old man with a cane. He placed his hands on the principal's shoulders and invited him to sit down first. Sanda would like to talk with him first. Ashibu was stunned by what he heard. He couldn't accept he was asked to sit down. He wondered if he was belittling him. Did he even realize what he had just said? A glimpse of his past surfaced. He was in the hospital, his entire face covered in bandages. That moment he thought to himself whether he knew that he had fought against aging. While sitting on the hospital bed, a doctor told him he would no longer be able to move his fingers. That had been his 72nd plastic surgery. The doctor explained that Ashibu's hands were the only parts of his body he had been born with. A month from that day, once the bandages were removed, his face would look even younger. But there was a chance scars could show, so the doctor advised him to be careful. For now, he handed him painkillers. But Ashibu simply stood and walked out. Alarmed, the doctor chased after him, telling him he couldn't just walk around during his rest period. He even called out to others to help stop him. Still, Ashibu strode steadily down the hallway, blood dripping from his body, his figure wrapped in bandages from head to toe. He refused the painkillers, saying that going against nature was always painful. Wasn't it laziness to simply let time flow and grow old? He would allow this pain to serve as his reminder. For nurses struggled to restrain Ashibu, pleading with him to stop walking. A 92-year-old man like him could not possibly endure that kind of agony. But deep inside, he believed he could reverse it, that he could still withstand it. The nurses could hardly believe he was still walking. What kind of power was this? They even called him a monster. Yet Ashibu was confident he could keep moving forward on his own, with nothing but his own legs to carry him. Back in the present, Sanda reached out and held his hand, asking if he was all right. Ashibu could not accept that, demanding if he was truly being helped. Fuyumura grew worried at his reaction and warned Santa to run, sensing that something was terribly wrong. Ashibu recalled the doctor's warning that there was always a chance his scars could resurface, so he had to be careful. And in that moment, the scars began to emerge. His face and neck started to crack open as he declared that he had heard stories of creatures going berserk when their scars began to tremble. Time, weather, different triggers could set it off, and it seemed this was one of them. By denying respect to the elderly, Sanda had flipped the wrong switch. He lifted his leg and drove it hard into Sanda's stomach, a strike he never saw coming. Even without winding up, the force behind it was immense. Sanda was hurled backward, crashing through the glass wall behind him as it shattered into pieces. The impact launched him out of the building. Fuyumura panicked, nearly crying out his real name. Amaya, on the other hand, could hardly believe it. Sanda had been taken down in a single blow. The principal spoke to the students, telling them to let him explain just how much strength they could possess if they continued resisting aging, both physically and mentally. Ono was stunned by his sheer power. As he lay there, Sanda only mocked him, muttering blah blah blah, before quickly rolling over to lift himself up and ready a counterattack. He thought that the man was nothing more than a well-spoken cyborg. Sanda recalled saying that children in the world shouldn't believe too much in Santa. Amaya had been surprised when he heard that from him. He raised his hand and explained that the source of Santa's power came from children who believed in him. His body had grown giant thin, skis appearing at his feet, and he warned that if anything stranger happened beyond that, he might lose his mind. He even asked them to forget that he was Santa. Amaya wondered where such words had come from, and even Fuyumura hadn't expected it. Sanda insisted that having such extraordinary power also came with problems, so they shouldn't believe in Santa. But back in the present, while locked in battle, Sanda instead wished that they would believe in Santa. He unleashed a powerful punch, but instead of hitting Ashabu, he narrowly dodged it, causing the floor beneath to shatter. Ashabu remarked that he hoped Sanda didn't deliberately miss because he didn't want to harm an old man. Sanda turned in shock at his speed, but before he could react, Ashabu struck him in the side with his cane. The hit landed, and Ashabu remarked that it really seemed he didn't know how to control his body yet. He pulled on the cane, revealing a hidden blade within it. He said it was time to stop playing around. They wouldn't be old for long. Seeing the weapon drawn, Sanda urged his skis to emerge from his feet, but to his frustration, they were slow to respond at such a critical moment. Ono grew tense watching, her eyes widening when Sanda suddenly called out to her, "Fuyumura and Amaya." Sanda said he was taking back his earlier words. While struggling to block the blade of Ashabu's cane with his skis, he pleaded with them to believe in him, to believe in Santa. The three of them were stunned at his words. He begged them to give him their strength. When Amaya heard those words, he finally understood what Sanda meant. For Santa, the children's belief in him was the best kind of doping. As the fight with Ashabu raged on, Amaya and Fuyumura exchanged looks, both still bewildered. But Amaya said that was exactly it. To help Sanda win, they had to believe in Santa with their whole hearts. From behind, Ono asked how they were supposed to do that. Amaya answered that they simply had to show how much they truly believed in Santa, and there was no other way. They turned toward him, thinking that they had to give him the greatest doping they could. Because of that, Sanda laughed while facing Ashabu and said that he is getting fired up. He managed to stand, gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, Fuyumura, Ono, and Amaya lay down on the floor. When Sanda stood, he looked at them lying there. For Santa Claus, children falling asleep was the greatest sign of their belief in him. But Ashabu suddenly kicked him hard in the face. Long ago, Santa couldn't move when the children hadn't yet fallen asleep. That was because once they slept, it meant they believed Santa would come. He was blown away by the force of the kick, but because the children's belief was linked to their slumber, he gained the strength to rise again. He told them to sleep easy. When Ashabu swung his weapon again to strike, he was shocked when Sanda caught it with his arm and stopped it. Sanda held it firmly, even as the children stayed lying down behind him with their eyes shut. Ashabu struggled to take his weapon out. Blood dripped onto the floor from the wound on Sanda's arm, where he had blocked Ashabu's blade. Sanda then recalled what his mother once said. Santa had stopped appearing because children had stopped sleeping. But Ashabu argued that now, they no longer needed to sleep. Just one night's rest could instantly grow their precious young bodies. Lying down but still awake, Ono grew worried when she heard that. Sanda asked what was wrong with that. Children grew by sleeping well, eating properly, and laughing often, and he would never allow that to change. He remembered seeing Fuyumura laughing as they rested near the vending machine. Fuyumura, still lying down with her eyes open, began to close them at last. Then, Sanda landed a blow to Ashabu's face, worsening the cracks spreading across him. The stitches holding him together loosened under the force. As a result, Ashabu collapsed onto the floor. Sanda reassured the children not to worry. Santa was there now. Moments later, Fuyumura closed her eyes and fell asleep. Sanda's strength had been overwhelming, powered by the children's belief in him. After they followed Amaya's proposal to pretend to sleep, he was given enough energy to land a solid blow on Ashabu. Sanda himself could hardly believe in the power of Santa that resided within him. Ashabu fell to the ground with a crash, while Sanda glanced over at Ono and Amaya, who were already rising to their feet. In his thoughts, he wondered just how strong he could become if even more children believed in him. If that were the case, then it was truly back to business as Santa, stronger than ever. Slowly, Ashabu began to rise, and Sanda turned to him in surprise. Ashabu only sniffed his coat, remarking that it probably needed washing. He pulled out a piece of paper and asked if Sanda's done yet. To Sanda's shock, it was as if his strength had returned as though nothing had happened. Ashabu said that compared to the agony of his full-body plastic surgery, a punch like that was nothing. He attacked again, this time striking Sanda with the handle of his cane, and the blow landed with terrifying force. Ashabu added that of all the surgeries he had endured, the most painful by far was the replacement of every one of his internal organs. He vomited constantly during the process of having his digestive tract replaced. Meanwhile, Sanda fell to his knees from the impact of Ashibu's strike, but even so, he refused to give in. He steadied himself and launched another punch, hitting Ashibu square in the face. As a result, a screw dislodged and flew from within Ashibu's body. Sanda was stunned, realizing that despite taking such a powerful hit, Ashibu was not even bleeding. Raising his cane again, Ashibu gestured towards Sanda's back, and Sanda was confused until he realized Ashibu was talking about his hormonal injections into his spine. He sliced through his back. The pain was unbearable, and blood flowed from his back. But Ashibu was far from finished. He declared that another procedure he had undergone was the amputation of his legs, replaced with artificial limbs. He swung his blade towards Sanda's legs in an attempt to incapacitate him. Amaya and Fuyumura trembled in terror at the sight. Ashibu then explained that he had even endured PDO thread lift treatment, polydioxanone, on his neck to keep it from drooping. For the sake of regaining his youth, he had endured every kind of pain imaginable. Looking down at Sanda, he asked whether Sanda's determination could possibly compare to his own. Ashibu added that even if Santa Claus was immortal, that did not mean he could not feel pain. Sanda was gasping for breath, clear worry written across his face. Yet he still managed to lift his leg and strike at Ashibu's bananas. Instead of being hurt, Ashibu only laughed and remarked what a low blow that was. Unfortunately for Sanda, that too was artificial. He explained that it had been so long since he had abandoned his humanity. He insisted the hellish fight would not end until Sanda finally gave up. Once again, he raised his blade, saying it was time to reveal his next surgery. However, he froze when he noticed something at the side. An elderly woman sat peacefully, pouring tea from a teapot into a cup. Sanda too was bewildered by the presence, unable to believe someone like that was there. The old woman seemed unconcerned with the chaos, simply blowing on her steaming drink. Sanda wondered aloud who that woman could be, and everyone grew tense at the scene. Seated calmly, the old woman commented on how hot the tea was. Sanda found himself questioning when she had arrived, since he had not even felt her presence. Ashibu glared darkly at her and approached, but the old woman told them there was no need to stop on her account. With trembling hands holding the hot cup, the old woman spoke to Ashibu, saying he seemed desperate to rejuvenate even though he still walked with a cane. To her, Ashibu looked as ridiculous as ever. As she placed down her cup, Amaya recognized her. The old woman moved with ease despite her frailty. She had sliced clean through Ashibu's blade using only her body. Ashibu dropped to his knees as the cane shattered. The sound of broken steel echoed as the old woman said that if Ashibu truly wished to feel young again, then he should walk without a cane, as she did. Ashibu's face twisted with irritation as he thought of the makeover of the lady of the academy. Sanda had only ever heard whispers about her, but knew instantly who she was. And Amaya was right. The director of Daiko Kwai Academy stood before them. Tetsudome Toyo, 95 years old. As she lifted her cup again, she muttered, "Oh no," claiming it felt as though alcohol had already struck her head. Sanda could not help but wonder how drunk this old woman really was. It was an unexpected interruption from the chair lady. She called out to Sanda, telling him to come with her and to stop fighting. He was too stunned to reply, overwhelmed by shock. In his thoughts, he could not believe that people could actually grow old and develop wrinkles. In the year 2080, it was normal for people to maintain the same appearance for 50 or 60 years. That evolution was attributed to extreme factors such as diet. Only the hands and internal organs were said to age until the end of life. Sanda found himself wondering if she had grown old by her own will. How could she perform such a powerful attack with that body? Ashibu stood and commented that her interference was impressive, addressing her as Chairlady Tetsudome. He picked up his cane and remarked that it was incredible she had simply allowed herself to grow old, especially in an age when only youth was valued. He added that if she spread out a ball of wasahi, a Japanese paper like crepe paper, she would not have so many wrinkles. He insisted that despite both of them being in their 90s, they were entirely different. Tetsudome only answered by telling him to stop speaking. She twisted her body to hit him, an attack Ashibu had not anticipated. The students were shocked, and even Sanda grew concerned for his knee. As a result, Ashibu could not help but fall back down onto the floor. Tetsudome said they were at an age when joints ached, and in his case, He was filled with stitches from countless surgeries. Ashibu could not respond any further. She told him to stay there like a teddy bear and spat at him. Then she called Sanda big guy and asked him to escort her to her office. Though confused at first, Sanda quickly agreed. As they were leaving, Ono called out to the chair lady, wanting to say something. But before she could finish, she told her to rest at the infirmary instead. She added that it was good she was alright, calling her Onii-Chan. While walking, Sanda followed quietly behind Tetsudome. He reflected on the fact that she had saved him. If she had not appeared, he surely would have lost back there. He remembered Ashibu's words about how adults became prone to tears as they aged, because of all the painful and sorrowful experiences they carried. That, Ashibu had said, was why they bore trauma. Thinking about it, Sanda could not help but shed tears. They fell to the floor as he thought that even when he was losing, he still had not managed to save anyone. He repeated it again and again while wiping his tears, wondering if, just as Ashibu had said, becoming an adult who cried easily meant he was carrying a trauma that would stop him from moving forward. If that was true, then perhaps growing up was. He did not finish the thought, because Tetsudome called out to him, asking if he intended to let someone as old as her climb the stairs alone. So she told him to carry her. Kneeling down, Sanda let her climb onto his back. She reminded him not to move too much, and he carefully followed. The chairlady noted that things had gone quiet, like the typhoon had finally passed. Sanda agreed, but in his mind, he was struck by how light she felt. He could not believe a body that had lived more than 90 years could weigh so little, like carrying a newborn child. She was so warm. Tetsudome then remarked that he had been absolutely terrible at it, and asked to be set down, surprising him. He could not place how he felt. Calm, yet nervous. What was it about this old woman? When she asked for his name, he was about to answer Sanda, but he answered Santa Claus. As they climbed the stairs, she told him it was a fine name. Sanda apologized, embarrassed that he had been crying like a child. Hearing that, she answered that the best kind of people were those who could shift between being an adult and being a child. Sanda thought that it seemed as though he wanted to hear more from her. He wondered why he felt so drawn to her. She was small and somewhat crude, yet in such defining moments, she spoke only the truth. Because of that, he understood now. The person before him was pure, like a child. Suddenly, he knelt before Tetsudome and confessed that he wanted to become stronger. He said he did not want to remain the way he was. He admitted that he had lost to Ashibu and had not managed to save even a single child. What he wished for was to become a strong Santa, one whom everyone could believe in. And so, he pleaded with her to teach him how to fight. The chairlady paused to think before mentioning Ashibu's scars. She said she was not entirely sure, but it had been decades since she had last seen them. Those scars only appeared when he was truly enraged. She congratulated Sanda, saying that he had accomplished to anger him. She noted that she had exhausted her energy long ago, but then she posed a question to him. Did he truly have the resolve to change the academy itself? She bent down to meet his eyes as she spoke of their school, one renowned for its trauma-free education. Seeing the determination in Sanda's face, she was convinced, and so she agreed. But she added that for now, they would first need to calculate how much the cost would be to repair all the destruction he had caused. Sanda was completely shocked by that, but the chairlady insisted she had seen everything. The scene shifted, revealing countless syringes scattered across the floor, tools that Ashibu had used on his own body. He declared that he knew Santa Claus was still within the academy, and so he vowed that he would make certain to uncover his identity, and once he did, he would kill him. The next day, when Sanda entered the classroom, Amaya looked at him and thought about how stupid his voice sounded. Yet while he joked around with their classmates, Amaya reflected that he also knew how to cheer people up and that he was sincere. His light-colored hair was like snow. Amaya did not quite know how to put it into words, but he realized something about Sanda. Later, during break, the three of them, Amaya, Fuyumura, and Sanda, went up to the rooftop. There, Amaya spoke to Sanda, surprising him by saying that from that day on, they should stop being friends. Sanda could not believe what he was hearing, but Amaya insisted, asking if he had not realized it yet. Ashibu had already seen both him and Fuyumura. The only mystery left to him was Sanda's true identity. That meant if the three of them kept staying together, sooner or later Ashibu would discover who Sanda really was. For that reason, Amaya said it would be best for everyone if they ended their friendship. In his thoughts, Sanda wondered who would have imagined that such a serious-looking handsome guy would sound convincing when saying something like that. He stopped and asked if Amaya was really saying that the three of them should stop being friends, questioning if they were discarding him after all they had gone through together in their mission to find Ono. But Amaya answered that it was for Sanda's sake. Sanda could not accept that. Weren't they friends? He demanded that Amaya not make such decisions on his own. Amaya had already expected such a response from him. Sanda explained further that the three of them were in danger anyway, so it would be better if they helped one another. He told him not to worry about it any longer. But in Amaya's thoughts, he reflected that Sanda was always like this. In moments of truth, he says exactly what others wanted to hear. His words cut into him deeply. Still, Amaya believed he needed to keep a cool head and not give in to such emotions. And so, he turned his back, saying he could take care of himself, before bidding them goodbye. Sanda was left unable to believe that Amaya had just walked away like that, without even finishing the conversation. In the dorm room, Amaya left a sign saying he wanted to be alone. But outside the door, Sanda called out his name. Magi wondered what was going on, and Dizono explained that Amaya had asked them to leave because he wanted solitude. He had even locked the door. Yutagawa then jokingly called him Prince Amaya and said he needed his underwear. That made Magi wonder if something was troubling their prince. Since Amaya wanted to be alone, Dizono suggested they all stay in the other room for the night. Sanda, however, stood outside fuming, thinking to himself that the prince was spoiled and stubborn. Inside, Amaya was clearly troubled by the decision he had made. Meanwhile, in the girls' dorm, Fuyumura was lost in thought about the behavior of the boys. Outside, Sanda stomped around in frustration, clutching their jacket and staring up toward the room above. Back inside, Amaya lay on his bed, thinking he could no longer endure Sanda. He no longer wanted the danger. If he spent his days with them, he was certain he would only put himself at risk trying to protect them, just as he had done before. He stood and admitted to himself that it was shallow to wish for Santa's return. He moved to the window, only to be shocked by what he saw. Sanda in his transformed state, struggling to climb up the wall using the skis on his feet. When Amaya opened the window, he asked him what he was doing. Sanda explained that since he would not open the door, he was trying to get in through the window. What else could it look like? Amaya asked what if someone saw him and told him to get down. But Sanda refused and said he should not tell him to stop being friends. Amaya still would not agree, saying Santa was only supposed to visit once a year. But hanging onto the side of the building, Sanda responded that he should not compare him to Santas from mere stories. He said he was strong, tall, and immortal, but he could not do it without Amaya. In Amaya's thoughts, he found Sanda so noisy, yet he knew exactly how to please people. Thinking back to the past battles, he reflected that Sanda was sincere, but he wondered just how many more times Sanda would save him. Amaya could only laugh to himself, wondering how many more times Sanda would save him with his own way of being Santa. Meanwhile, Sanda, lost in his own thoughts, realized that perhaps this was the most Santa-like thing he had ever done. A girl was startled when she noticed Sanda outside her window, and so he quickly moved out of sight and slipped into the next room. Luckily, the person there was too busy with the computer to notice. When the girl's roommate asked what had happened, she said she thought she had just seen a big guy outside. Maybe she was only imagining things. Sanda moved back to the center wall and continued climbing with effort. And so in the other room, the friends continued dancing while the other girl glanced outside. When he finally reached their dorm room, Amaya pulled him in through the window, though it was a struggle. With all his strength, Amaya supported him and commented that Sanda really could not function without him. Just then, a loud crash came from behind, and it turned out to be Fuyumura, who had kicked their door open. She remarked how easy it was to break. Amaya said the timing was perfect. Fuyumura asked if they had made up, and he admitted they had, urging her to hurry. She did not question further, knowing it was impossible for the two of them to stay split since they were both stubborn. Amaya admitted his mistake, but for now, he asked her to help. On the side, Sanda panicked as the long skis on his feet vanished, stripping him of his support and causing him to fall. Students in nearby rooms wondered aloud if they had just seen the shadow of a giant man outside. Since he slipped from Amaya's grip, both Amaya and Fuyumura peered down from the window in alarm. Fuyumura asked if they would still be hanging out, and Amaya, laughing, said of course. He could never leave that Santa behind. The next day, Sanda, now with a bandaged face, was walking again with Fuyumura and Amaya at his side. But hidden behind a tree, Ashibu watched silently, keeping them under his watch.